Good afternoon. What's the secrets of the Hungarian government? Because the country is going up, but there are some people in Spain that are spreading bad propaganda about the country. Mm-hmm. They are always telling that Orbán is Putin. How do you say about that?
Well, I think the secret is that this government represents the Hungarian people. Mm-hmm. So whatever we do is in the interest of the Hungarian people, whether it's our domestic economic policy, whether it's our foreign policy, or whether it's our social policy, to be honest. The foundations are clear. We want to have a society which is knowledgeable of its own traditional values, which are based on the Judeo-Christian heritage this country had for 1100 years. And we want to protect the Hungarian nation in the long run so it could remain Hungarian. In order to do that, we have to have a functioning economy, and in the last more than 10 years, we added more than 1 million jobs to the economy. But that was also because we had unemployment as we came out of the 2008 financial crisis. And I do remember that when Prime Minister Viktor Orbán was elected in 2010, he made a bold promise that he's going to add 1 million jobs. We're a country of 10 million people, so that's a significant number for us. He's going to add 1 million jobs in 10 years, and he just did that, to be honest. And in order to do that, we were working with partners from all around the world to bring foreign direct investment here, new factories, research and development facilities, and so on and so forth. So Hungarian people will have a place to work. And as a result of that, we have seen a very healthy economy growth before the pandemic. Of course, since then, and because of the war and the impact of the war on Europe, economically it became a bit more complicated. But we are doing whatever we can to ensure that Hungarian people have a good quality of life. And they have been rewarding us with constant re-elections ever since, because at the end of the day our objective is to serve the Hungarian people and not some foreign powers.
And what Orbán thinks about the bad propaganda that spreads in Spain, the President Sanchez hates Orbán. He's always telling in the TV station that Vox is dangerous because they are friend of Orbán, who is friend also of Putin.
Well, this government is led by the Hungarian interest, and Hungarians are honest people, so we're also outspoken. So part of this comes from telling the inconvenient truth to people in Brussels and elsewhere. But when we say, for example, that the war in Ukraine should end as soon as possible and we should have a ceasefire and peace talks, is not because that we are recognizing that Ukraine should give up territory. We never said that. We said that in order to save lives, the shooting has to stop as soon as possible. And as we know that this is going to end the negotiating table anyway, the sooner the better, because then we can save more lives and so on and so forth. The other part is, I think, how the quote-unquote civilized Europe is trying to exclude us from the political debates. And it's really easy to do that if you say that guy is an agent of this, that guy is an agent of that, because then you don't even have to start a conversation on the future of Europe. And we do have strong convictions on how Europe should look like, that it should be based on the very rich history of Europe, the diversity of the European nations, the individual historical heritage of all of the nations which live in Europe. And we shouldn't go into a confederate or more federal Europe in the long run. And there's no such thing as the European nation. There are nations in Europe which are very unique, and we should be united in diversity at the end of the day. But it's easier to get this debate done by our political opponents if they say that you are Russian agents, therefore we're not going to listen to you. Mm-hmm. So discrediting political opponents is something, cancelling political opponents is something which became very frequent in Europe recently. And the more our political opponents are trying to silence us, the louder we will speak. And the more we will engage our partners all across the continent.
How do you see Spain? Because in Spain we have a leftist parties government, and in the next European, it seems that it's going to be not winning, but close to. Mm-hmm. What about the PP party in Vox? How do you see the situation? Because Meloni, Sweden, Netherlands, the conservative parties are going up, but not in Spain.
Well, at the end of the day, it's up to the Spanish people to decide. But we believe that those kind of challenges that we see across the continent when it comes to illegal immigration, when it comes to economic policies which are not serving the interests of the European people, how the European Commission is destroying European competitiveness, which leads to disappearing jobs, I think the people are in a position to judge for themselves that what kind of governments and political forces they would like to support. And if I look at the European polls and if I see the conservative parties rising all across the continent, that's not an accident. That is because people are fed up with the leadership that they see in Brussels. That is because people are fed up with the progressive governments they have been having in most of the European countries. So We really hope that the time for the conservative parties in Europe is just around the corner.
George Soros is from Hungary. He's welcome in this country?
Well, he's one of the most successful Hungarians that we know, to be honest. Of course, he can come back anytime he wants to. He's not being persecuted or anything, but he's a significant political opponent. And, there are only a few leaders across the world who dare to stand up against him. And it's not only him, to be honest. You have many other politicians or business people who tend to know what's best for society, even without asking the people that what's best for them. And what we stand for is that to push back against all these attempts that you see that are trying to tell countries from the outside that how they should behave, what they should think, what they should believe in, because democracy is a bottom-up process. Democracy is about listening to the people. Democracy is about letting people speak their minds. And it's also about allowing them to elect governments which are representing the people's interests and not some foreign interests. So with Mr. Soros, I think we have a very interesting ongoing contest and competition. I have to say, his points of view are quite clear. He wrote many books about it. Our position is very clear. The Prime Minister is speaking very concisely about this, and it's going to be up to the people to decide that which of these forces they would like to support. The Hungarian people have spoken very strongly in the last 14 years, because in the last 14 years they have elected us 4 times with a constitutional majority. So they are clearly on the side of the Hungarian people and not on the side of Mr. Soros.
In other conservative government in Spain, the conservative political thinks that they has to help the leftist media. What do you think about it? Here in the government, you help the opponent media?
Well, the Hungarian media market is really interesting because in 2002, when we had the debate of the prime minister candidates of the time, Mr. Orbán on the one hand, and Péter Medgyessy was the socialist candidate for prime minister who later won the election, he said that, if the conservatives want the media, they have to buy it. We didn't buy it, we built it in the last 20 years. So right now what you see is that we have roughly a 50-50% of conservative and progressive media shares in the country. In the online, the opposition is stronger. So 4 out of the 5 biggest news portals are opposition. They're not banned, they can function very well. And they're not persecuted, their journalists can work freely all across the country and beyond. So if people are interested in what these media have to tell them, they can access it all the time. In the print media, in TV and radio, the conservative side is a little bit more stronger, but overall I would say it's 50-50. And we trust people that they can find the information that they need and they can make up their minds. We're not going to tell them that what to think about these major issues. We think that they're smart enough to find it out for themselves. And there's a major difference between the conservative and the progressive media, because of course the conservative media is a bit different when it comes to how it's using messaging. Because in the progressive media you always see that what is the desirable and what is the right point of view. The conservative media is a bit different. We still like to let people think a little bit and trust them that they can make up their own minds.
How do you imagine Europe in 20 years?
In 20 years, I hope that Europe will be able to secure its borders, first of all, because we are seeing traditional and non-traditional challenges both from the south and from the east. And I strongly hope that Europe and the European leadership will come to its senses when it comes to serving the European people. Right now we see that the leaders of Europe in Brussels are serving other interests, outside players, big transnational companies and so on and so forth, and not so much focused on the European people themselves. And this is why the European people are having enough of this kind of European leadership. But if Europe can be a place where individual member states, as individual cultures, can coexist peacefully together, we can trade more effectively, and we can be mindful of the political differences that we have, and we wouldn't have this zeal that everything has to look the same, that would be a good start. And this is what the elections are about this weekend, that which way we will go. We will go in a way that where everything is blue and yellow with the EU flag, and there will be no differences between the nations, or whether we will be able to preserve our own heritage, on our culture, on our values, and whether we will have a Europe which is more functional than that is right now.
Thank you very much, and congratulations for your government.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.